Hello again, Jeff here with an example of a forward rate agreement. A forward rate agreement determines an interest rate now for borrowing or lending to occur in the future. In this example, you need to borrow $300,000 at the London Interbank Offered Rate, LIBOR, for 3 months, starting 3 years from now. You are going to enter into a forward rate agreement in order to lock in your interest rate at 5%. First question, suppose that LIBOR turns out to be 7% when you borrow the money. Determine the amount that you will receive or pay on the forward rate agreement if the cash flow occurs 3.25 years from now. So that this last part here, if the cash flow occurs 3.25 years from now, just means if you're going to make or receive the payment on the FRA at the end of the entire process. You're borrowing for 3 months, starting for 3 years, so the whole thing will be done 3 years and 3 months from now, or 3.25 years from now. There's a couple of ways that you can figure this out. We can look at what you are actually going to end up paying, which is the 7%. So on the loan, you are going to be paying 7% of the $300,000 that you're borrowing. That's not for a whole year, though. It is for 3 months, which is a quarter of a year. Calculator, 7% of $300,000 for a quarter of a year, $5,250. However, you entered into a forward rate agreement so that you could lock in a 5% interest rate, which means that you really should be paying 0.05 times 300,000 times 0.25. Calculator. $3,750. To get you from the $5,250 you had to pay to the $3,750 that you locked in, you need to receive something from the forward rate agreement, and you would receive the difference, $5,250 minus $3,750. So the answer, you receive $1,500 under the forward rate agreement. Now there is a slightly faster way you can do this, which is to know that the forward rate agreement makes a payment or a receipt based on the difference between the locked-in rate and the actual rate, which is 2%. So if we pull up the calculator here, the 2% times 300,000 times the quarter of a year gives you the $1,500 directly. The reason I like to do it the longer way here is that it makes it more clear whether you are receiving the payment in order to get you to the locked-in amount, or you have to make a payment to get you to the locked-in amount. Because if you had guaranteed a 5% rate and the interest rate turned out to be 3%, this situation would be completely the opposite. You would have to pay $1,500 under the FRA, because essentially you paid less than the amount that you guaranteed you would pay, or that you promised that you would pay. So second part of the question here, this is the same question with a small adjustment. It turns out to be 7% when you borrow the money, but the payment or the receipt on the FRA is going to occur 3 years from now at the time you borrow the money, rather than at the end of the entire process. What we need to do in this case is discount the $1,500 by 1/4 of a year because of the 3-month difference in when the cash flow is going to occur. We are going to discount the $1,500 using 1 plus rate times time, which in this case is 1,500 divided by 1 plus the interest rate 0.07, it's the actual interest rate that you use, times the time in the discounting, which is a quarter of a year, pull up the calculator here. 1,500 divided by, open parentheses, 1 plus 0.07 times 0.25 is 1474.20. Slightly less that you will receive under the FRA because you are receiving that money earlier.